So I have been putting off filming the intro to this vlog all week because it's actually been quite a while since I last filmed anything, and I'm kind of scared that I've forgotten how to talk to a camera. But hi, welcome to the first reading vlog of 2024. In this reading vlog, I am going to be reading books from my January TBR. That's it. That is the theme of this vlog. I did have a few different ideas for vlogs that I could do in January, but I've kind of thrown all of my plans out the window, and I'm going to mood read from my TBR still because I still need that structure. But basically, I had a horrible December. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and you might even still be able to hear in my voice I got sick at the end of December. Thankfully it was just a cold, but that on top of everything else that was going on was just the final straw. So I decided to take a few weeks off YouTube, but I am now back and I'm excited to be making content again. I need to film all of my end of year content this weekend because I didn't do that in between Christmas and New Year. I'm hoping that my voice is going to be better by then, but we'll see how that goes. In terms of reading updates, I am currently reading Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent, and I am obsessed with this book. I'm about halfway through and I think it's going to be a 5 stars. So this is a fantasy romance. So far it's lent more on the fantasy side of things rather than the romantic side of things, but I actually prefer that, and I really like the world in this. It's very dark and brutal. It's a world that is ruled by vampires. However, our main character, Araya, is human, and when she was a child, she was adopted by the vampire king, and she's grown up in constant fear for her life because even though she's protected living in this palace, vampires are big and scary, and she is obviously weaker in comparison. Every 100 years there's this competition where the winner is granted one wish by the goddess of death, and Araya has entered this competition and she's taken part in a series of very brutal trials, and she's trying to survive, essentially, is the setup for this plot. But we have also been introduced to the love interest, and I really like their dynamic, so I'm interested to see how that develops. It's also a little bit political because there's this tension between the 3 vampire houses, but there's also tension within the houses, and again I'm really excited to see how that develops because I love political fantasy and I feel like this is going to deliver on that. Araya's personality is that she's very focused and ruthless, and I'm glad that this is told in first person POV because I think that's helping her to feel not flat. She feels like she has a lot of depth and there's more to her personality than just being driven. She's actually quite funny. She has this dry sense of humour and there's been some parts that have made me smile. She's an interesting character to follow, so that's all good. Like I said, I think this could be 5 stars. I know that this is technically going to be a 6-book series, but the series is split into 3 duologies, I think. Might have that wrong, but I know that there is a sequel to this book that I think came out last year, so maybe once I finish this I'll go straight into the sequel. We'll see what I'm feeling. But in terms of what else I want to read in this vlog, I don't know. I think I mentioned in my January TBR video, I want to try and prioritise Kindle reads and Kindle Unlimited reads in particular because I'm thinking about cancelling my KU subscription soon. So welcome to the vlog. I will let you know once I have decided what I'm going to read next and once I have reading updates. I do have plans this weekend with my dad because he's currently visiting from America, but otherwise I'm hoping to do lots of reading this weekend.
Shall I compare to a summer day? She's the sun, she fill out the gray. Quench my thirst, she's my lemonade.
happy to report that I have now finished Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent, and I'm giving it 5 stars. It was really difficult not to immediately go into book 2 after finishing this book, but I know that there's a novella that comes between books 1 and 2, and I want to read that first, so I'm going to take a little bit of a break before moving on with this series. The ending was intense, and I don't want to fall into a reading slump this early in the year, so yeah, 5 stars. I don't know what else I can say about this book. It's going to be really difficult for me to give coherent thoughts because I am so obsessed, but I liked how this had a really engaging plot, but also the perfect slow burn romance. It's clear from the beginning that the main characters do not like each other and they don't trust each other, but seeing their relationship develop gradually over the course of the book, it was perfection. They had really good banter and it never felt forced. I feel like sometimes banter can feel a little bit cringe and stilted, but I never felt that with this. The pacing was also great in my opinion. I liked how the plot was structured around these trials because I found that really compelling and it kept me wanting to keep turning the page. I do need to stress that this is quite grim in parts. I don't think I was prepared for just how dark it was going to be. It's definitely adult fantasy. I would say that it's 60% fantasy and 40% romance, just to set expectations. The stakes always felt high and there were parts where I felt so anxious because of everything that these characters were going through. Like I said, I am going to take a little break from the series for a while and I have now moved on to another book. I wanted a bit of a palette cleanser, so I decided to pick up a thriller. It's called What Never Happened by Howzell, which I got through Amazon First Reads a couple of months ago. I'm not that far in, but already I'm really enjoying it. It has one of the most tense opening chapters that I've read in a thriller for a while, and I am interested to see how things develop as we go. So this is following a main character called Coco, who used to live on this island. However, she moved away after her family were brutally murdered. It's now 20 years later and she's returned to this island because she's going through a difficult divorce. Almost as soon as she arrives back, she begins to regret her decision and question whether she's made the right choice because things are happening and she feels very uncomfortable there. Her family were the first black people to move to this small close-knit community. Now, I don't know how much to say because I don't know the full picture yet, but this is set in 2020 and I'm assuming that it's going to follow real life. We all know what happened in March 2020, so I will give a proper synopsis once I've got a little further into this, but I think my plan for the rest of today is to read this book and also I need to film a video. I did manage to film a video yesterday, but my throat still doesn't feel right. I still feel like I'm talking a bit croakily, so we'll see if that actually happens, but I'm waiting for the battery to charge on my other camera and then I'm gonna see how I'm feeling. But it's nice weather today, so it's perfect filming weather. I really should film, but we'll see if I feel in the mood to do that later. So it's now Monday evening and I thought I would check in with you before I read some more of What Never Happened by Howzell because I reckon I could finish this tonight. Struggling to get my words out today. I'm about 60% of the way through this, so I could finish this tonight and I wanted to share some thoughts because I have thoughts on this book. I don't know if I like it. I like certain aspects. I like the atmosphere and the setting and I'm intrigued enough to want to keep on reading to find out what's happening in this story. Basically, this is following a woman who went through something traumatic 20 years ago when she was a teenager, and now in the present day she's returned to this island where everything happened and she begins to suspect that there's a murderer who's killing old people. But is that actually what this book is about? Because it feels very hazy and directionless and I don't really understand what the point is. I feel like this is trying to make commentary on something, and I'm going to be really interested to see how things do wrap up, because I feel like there's something really obvious going on. I feel like there's an obvious explanation for what's happening, but I don't know whether it's too obvious and whether I'm being led down one path and yes, something else is actually going on. I don't know. I haven't read anything by this author before, so I don't know what to expect. My final rating is going to really depend on how this wraps up, because it's feeling like a 3 to 4 stars at the moment. So yeah, I'll let you know my final thoughts once I do finish this. I then was thinking I might pick up a romance because I am in the mood for a romance, but what I'm not in the mood for is the romance that's on my TBR. So I think it was Flawless by Elsie Silver that I added to my official TBR this month, and I tried reading the first page and I don't like the writing style, so I think I'm going to pick up something else instead. I do have a few other Keigo romances downloaded on my Kindle, and there was one in particular. It's called The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrun. Sorry, I just wanted to double check that I had the name right. So I was thinking maybe I'll pick that up next. Why can't I even find it on my Kindle? There we go. I've just found it searching in my library. So yeah, I think if it will focus, is it going to focus? Yeah, I'm going to pick that up next once I've finished What Never Happened, and I will update you at some point later this week. I am going out tomorrow for my sister's birthday, and then I'm working from the office on Wednesday, so it's probably going to be towards the end of the week when I have time to vlog again. But I also still need to film some of my end of year content. I've almost done everything now. No, that's a lie. I've filmed 2 videos out of I think 5 that I wanted to do this month. So yeah, wish me luck, and I will catch up with you towards the end of this week once I have some more reading updates. Hello everyone, it is now Thursday. It's been a few days since I last caught up with you, but I wanted to let you know I did end up finishing What Never Happened by Rachel Howzell Hall, and I feel really conflicted on this because I liked most of the book. I liked how it was very slow and meandering, and there was a lot of suspense. Most of the more thrilling elements were to do with home invasion and hearing noises in your house, and that's something that personally makes me feel really anxious. I don't know whether I've ever actually told this story, but when I first started living alone, one of the main reasons why I decided to get a cat, other than the fact that I love cats and I wanted a pet, one of the main reasons why I decided to get a cat was because I kept hearing noises in the middle of the night, and I thought, well, if I get a cat and I hear a noise, then my brain is going to think, oh, it's just the cat. It all made sense logically at the time, but yeah, that is something that really worked for me in this book. However, I didn't like the ending. It didn't quite land for me. It's really difficult to explain without spoilers, but it felt both predictable, but also I didn't see it come in. I think because it was just very out there, I didn't expect it to actually go in that direction. So yeah, mixed feelings. I think I'm going to give it like a 3.5. I would really like to check out other books by this author though, because I did really like the writing style. I can see why some people might find it a little boring because it is quite slow, but personally I quite like thrillers that do build up slowly, and then you have the ending that kind of packs a punch and there's a lot more action. I have now started another book. I'm around halfway through The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrun, and the fact that I'm already 50% of the way through should tell you how much I'm enjoying this book so far. I really like the reality TV element. It's basically about this TV show that sounds very similar to The Bachelor, except it's fairy tale themed. So you have a Prince Charming and you have these women who are vying for his affection, and I think at the end, whoever the guy chooses, they become engaged. I think I've understood that right. One of the main characters characters is called Dev, and he works as a producer on this show. He really believes in true love, and even though he knows that certain aspects are manufactured just for entertainment, he still truly believes in love. Charlie, on the other hand, is our other main character, and he is the star of this show. He has been cast in the role of Prince Charming, but he doesn't really think it's real. He only agreed to go on the show because he thought it was all fake. Within the first few days of filming, it becomes very clear that Charlie has social anxiety and he's coming across as very awkward on screen, and so Dev is tasked with helping Charlie and mentoring him to try and help him relax and feel more comfortable. Obviously, this is a romance, so you can probably guess what direction it goes in, but this is really cute so far. I really like the main characters, and I really like seeing the behind the scenes of this fictional TV show. It does feel like the first half has focused a lot on Charlie, and I'm hoping that in the second half it becomes a little more balanced, because so far I like them individually, but I want to feel that real connection between them. Might try and finish this before the weekend. I don't know if I'm going to finish it tonight. I am reading it quite quickly, but I also don't want to rush it because I am enjoying it so much.
I just know she'll be my downfall. When the rain it pours, my heart will forever take its toll. 'Cause she's all I know, she's all I know, she's all I know. Shall I compare to winter solstice? While she's coasting off, I'm dozing like a ghost, thinking that maybe I wouldn't notice. But it's colder, it's colder, it's cold around when you're not here. You put this icebox where my heart used to be, my dear. Not too fond of the idea that you become my downfall. When the rain it pours, my heart will forever take its toll. 'Cause she's all I know, she's all I know, she's all I know. I just know she'll be my downfall. When the rain it pours, my heart will forever take its toll. 'Cause she's all I know, she's all I know, she's all I.
Apologies if the lighting isn't the best in this update. It's coming up on 4 o'clock. Actually, it's just gone past 4 o'clock, so it's getting dark outside, and I just realised I needed to film an update before the weekend is over because I have now finished The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochrun. I finished this a few nights ago, and I wanted to have some time to process my thoughts because I really enjoyed this, but there was something about it that's stopping me from giving it a full 5 stars. I think it's more like a 4 or a 4.5, but it made me feel really emotional. I don't know why I'm so surprised, because I can remember when it came out it had a lot of hype and there were a lot of really positive reviews, but for some reason I haven't heard much recently, and so it wasn't on my immediate radar. I thought that Dev and Charlie were adorable, and it was so lovely seeing them open up to each other and seeing them show the other person that they deserved to fall in love. It was emotional in places. I wasn't expecting this to make me cry, and I wasn't like full on sobbing, but there were definitely tears in my eyes. So yeah, I think I am going to give this like a 4.5. I really liked how this was about a reality TV show and how we got to see the behind the scenes of that, and how it was also critical about reality TV. It also has a lot of discussions around mental health and anxiety and depression. There's lots of different types of representation, like OCD rep and asexual rep. Would really recommend this. I definitely want to pick up Alison Cochrun's other book, which I believe is a sapphic holiday romance, so it's probably not one that I'm going to get to anytime soon, but I definitely need to move it up my priority list, and hopefully I can pick it up later in the year. So before I wrap up this reading vlog, there are a couple more books that I finished over the weekend that I wanted to quickly tell you about. The first is The List by Yomi Adegoke, which is literary fiction. It also has the vibes of a thriller because it had me on the edge of my seat. I was going to give this 4 stars. I think on reflection it's more like a 4.5 because I can't stop thinking about it. And it's one of the best audiobooks that I've listened to in a while. It's basically about this couple who are engaged and they're about to get married in less than a month. Ola and Michael are their names, and Ola works for this magazine that's like a feminist magazine. And one morning she goes into work and everyone is talking about The List, which has been published through an anonymous Twitter account. And on this list is a bunch of names of men who work within the media and who women have accused of all sorts of things, of being predators or abusers. And Ola sees that her fiance's name is on this list. So it's about how this couple reacts to this situation. You do also get both perspectives, which I wasn't expecting. There's 2 different voices on the audiobook, and like I said, it's one of the best audiobooks that I've ever listened to. The voice actors, the narrators, were fantastic, and they made the characters feel like real people. I felt like I was listening to a podcast. So even though the characters weren't likable, it was still really compelling, and I kept looking for excuses to carry on listening because I just wanted to find out what was going to happen and how it was going to be wrapped up. It only has like a 3.17 average rating on Goodreads, so I went into it with lower expectations, but I'm so glad that I ignored Goodreads and just went ahead and read it anyway, because I feel like I'm still going to be thinking about this book in months or even years' time. That sounded a little bit dramatic, but I think the purpose of this book was to be provocative, and it was really thought-provoking. It puts you inside the minds of these characters and it makes you question everything, and it makes you question in particular what you would do in this situation. I think it also showed why some women don't come forward, because some people will focus on the false allegations and will use that to not believe the women who do come forward, and I just thought it was really cleverly written. Like I said, I'm giving it a 4.5 stars because I feel like it's going to stick with me long term. And another book which I think is going to stick with me long term is The Devotion of Suspect X by Keigo Higashino, which is a crime thriller that came out years ago. I think it was published in English in 2011. I'm not sure exactly when it came out in Japanese because this is translated, but I thought this was so unique. It has a really interesting structure. It opens by introducing you to this woman. I don't want to say too much, but a crime is committed and we're following this detective who is investigating this crime. As the reader, you already know some of what happened, but you don't know everything. And it's such an interesting reading experience watching this detective try and piece together the puzzle. I think this is actually part of a series where each book follows this same detective, but he investigates a different case in each book. And I would be interested in checking out other books. This is the only book that I own and that I've really heard anything about, but this was such an interesting experience. The only thing that's stopping me from, I think, giving it 5 stars is I didn't love the ending. Like the actual ending, how do I explain this? Like part of the ending I did like, however, it continued after that and I didn't like where it left off. Also, the writing felt a little bit stilted at times, but I feel like that could be down to the translation. So yeah, would recommend this if you're looking for something a little more unique. It's not super fast paced and there's not that much action. It's much more psychological, but I personally prefer that in my crime thrillers. So yeah, I am, like I said, gonna wrap up the reading vlog here. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and how your reading is going so far in 2024. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me, but otherwise I will see you next time. Bye.